AFC Championship edition of the Aftermath, Chiefs versus Ravens. Let's dive into it.
Hey, what's good, y'all? It's your boy JD6 here. I'm with my man. Shout out to KC Sports Authority. Make sure y'all go check that podcast out, man.
You heard the man.
Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom, to another episode of the Aftermath. I am your host this morning, CJ Jones, another championship edition with my buddies Keegan, Chris. Fellas, how are we feeling on another glorious championship opportunity? Hopefully Super Bowl bound Saturday morning, my friends.
The season starts today, right? You know, that's how it feels as Chiefs fans the last 6 years, is guarantee ourselves being in this spot, and then whatever happens. Hopefully it's another trip to the Super Bowl, but man, it's gonna be a tough task.
There are so many people who don't know anything in life other than Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. There are 6-year-olds running around right now who don't know anything different than Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. It's becoming the AFC's most common tradition to see Chiefs on this weekend, and couldn't be more pumped. You know, this is probably the two teams all season on the AFC side that everyone felt would be here slugging it out to go to the Super Bowl. Wouldn't have it any other way. You want to go up against the best, and honestly, I think it's a good matchup for us.
If you're a parent and you have a child born in 2010 or after, they're the happiest kids on earth.
Yeah, they don't know anything. They're probably the obnoxious fans that give everyone a bad name. No, I'm just playing.
They're 10. They're like, Mahomes is the best. What are you talking about?
Right, exactly. Who Brady? Who is this guy? What is a Brady?
Hey,
but
apparently Tom Brady's the next biggest Chiefs fan now, so we got that going for us too.
He's backing us, so maybe he knows balls.
Dude, it's been crazy. And what's funny too is, like you said, Keegan said that these were the two teams that a lot of people expected. I think there were a lot of fans that expected Dolphins. They're gone. Expected Bills. They're also gone. They expect the Ravens in the Super Bowl. They're next on the list. Like, let's be real. Like, the Ravens look really, really good, but their path through a first-year rookie team here wasn't nearly as difficult to take away the injury. So, like, the Chiefs have actually played good quarterbacks and good offenses. You know, we can talk about the other stuff on the other side of the ball, but, like, they've seen guys like, you know, no one's like Lamar, but they've seen guys that are an elevated top 10 quarterbacks in this league, which I don't think is getting nearly enough discussion this week so far. It's like, sure, the Chiefs going against the banged up defenses, and Lamar is going to be the MVP, and this Ravens defense is a different animal, but, like, they're a little bit more battle tested. They've been a little bit more already in the zone of having to fight for their lives, you know, in these games, while the Ravens made a second half adjustment and blew out the Texans. So I think that's a huge part, like, as just far as being prepared in this AFC Championship game, let alone the experience this team already has from the runs they've made in the past.
No, absolutely. That's kind of what we've said. I know these are the conversations I've had with people. Like, the pressure is all on the Ravens, like you said. The Chiefs have been here and done that. The last 6 years, this is where our season has been for January. So coming in from the Ravens' perspective, they haven't been in this position since, 2012? Over a decade. So that's a lot of change. Like, how many people were even on the Ravens organization when the last time they won the Super Bowl? Harbaugh, Tucker.
That might be it. I don't know their long snapper situation, but that might be it.
So, like, I mean, the only guys on that team that really have championship experience, not trying to discredit them, they're a good team, but it's Odell Beckham, Kyle Van Noy, and then, like, Tucker and Harbaugh. That's it. A lot of other guys haven't been in this position or even played this deep into January before. So it is a big moment for them. And obviously the Chiefs have the experience factor. They have the battle test factor. Like, fellas, we've seen everybody in the AFC Championship now. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, now Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady. Like Chris said, there's no quarterback that the Chiefs or Pat Mahomes or even Andy Reid, for that matter, hasn't prepared for going into a big game. So the fact that it is on the road and away from Arrowhead doesn't really matter to me, because if you played in the biggest moments, this is just another notch on your belt. Like you said, this is just another game for them. So it's the biggest game because it is the next one. But when you hear the guys talking their pressers and the way they're focused and the way this is what we're kind of used to, they know what to expect, and I think they'll be ready for the moment.
No, for sure. And it's like one of those things, too, to where you start going down the list, though, of why the Chiefs may lose this game. I know we'll dive into it later, but it's like the Ravens hit this, the Ravens hit this, the Ravens hit this. But why could the Chiefs win? They got 15 on the other side of the ball, and I think that's a huge part of this game. The fact that, are they still 4-point dogs? I know the line's
moved. It's now, I see it 3 right now on ESPN.
It's down to 3.
Down to 3.
I got it at 4.5 on ESPN bet. I like it.
Like, regardless of what it is, like,
I'm sorry, it is 4. My bad. It opened at 3. It's up to 4 now.
It's just crazy that over a field goal for Pat Mahomes. He's never lost. The
Crazy.
two that he's lost were in overtime by less than that. So like, or I guess
That's what I said.
it was 6 against the when Tom
Patriots,
punched it
yeah.
in, but
It was
like
a walk-off. So
yeah, but like still like that was still an overtime game. It's like
exactly.
I just don't understand that. Like even you can sit there and say that the Chiefs will lose. Like I have no issue with that because again, this Ravens team is very talented. But like 4 points, like feels
I
like
think the same thing.
it feels like it coming down to a Justin Tucker kick would be the best case scenario for Baltimore, and I would just hammer that line today. So
I did that. I took it already. I took it last Sunday. Whenever right after the Bills game, the line opened up. I took it at 3.5. I doubled down this morning and took it at 4.5 again. Like Chris said, this team doesn't lose by double digits. And I'm not trying to like put everyone in a box, but I've talked to some intercounting Ravens fans on some of their spaces or some of their podcasts. There's a lot of them that are very confident in their team as they should be, but some of them are thinking double digit wins, like 9.5, 10.5. I'm like, I get you think your team wins. You should be confident you're the number one seed for a reason. But to think you're going to beat this team by double digits with Patrick Mahomes, who's healthy, with Kelsey and Andy Reid, I just think that's kind of disrespectful in my opinion. So I took it at 4.5 too, Chris.
yeah, that's the best way to go. Where are you thinking on the line, Keegan?
Yeah, there's a couple ways I've been looking at it, not just from a betting angle, but from like what feels practical. And I said this to you guys earlier in the week, and we said it on our recap of last week's episode too. It just feels like a game of field goals to me. So I don't see how this game spread is any larger than 4. I think on either end, whether it's Chiefs win or Ravens win, I think this game's going to come down to less than a touchdown. So yeah, sign me up for covering the 4 on either end, whichever way you want to bet it. Chiefs fan, Ravens fan, doesn't matter. There's no way this game is beyond 4 points unless it's one of those overtime scenarios where, they get a touchdown to end it, or, it's got that awkward where a team's down, let's say 2 at the end of the game, and instead of going for the field goal, they bust a play open and it goes for a touchdown. But again, I don't think that's likely. These are 2 really, really, really good defenses, probably the 2 best defenses in the league. Both teams don't give up a lot of touchdowns. They manage the field. They might give up chunk plays here and there, but they know how to basically erase the guy that's in front of them. So I don't really see a lot of touchdowns in this game personally, and I might be way wrong because there's a lot of people out there that have this like 33-28 kind of game. But to me, this just screams defense, slow, steady, a trench fight, drown it out, and whoever can make the most field goals is the team that's coming out. So yeah, sign me up for less than a 4 point spread.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And let's just start with looking at the Chiefs defense, how they're going to defend this Ravens offense. We've got, I think Willie Gay's questionable. He hasn't practiced all week. Mike Edwards, it's in the same boat with this concussion. So there will be a few guys that we're kind of waiting to see. I think Willie Gay is where we need to start just because his impact is going to be huge because he'll be used as the spy if he can go because of his speed and athleticism. Otherwise, it'll be interesting to see, like maybe Drew Tranquil gets that role. Maybe Spags starts to disguise it. CJ, let's start with you, man. How do you see this Chiefs defending this very dynamic Ravens offense led by Lamar Jackson?
No, absolutely. Just like we did on the recap episode, it's very similar to last week's game plan. A little tweaks in there, but overall, it's the same type of thing. You're not really going to sack Lamar Jackson or quarterbacks like Josh Allen. They're too athletic. They're too gifted at getting rid of the ball, extending plays outside of the pocket. So the goal of this week, just like if you listen to the mic'd up version of when they did the franchise episode, Joe Cullen said just collapse the pocket. Don't let them get outside. So throwaways and incompletions are wins. So if Willie Gay can go this week, I know he didn't practice, but I think they said he's going to do his best to try to – he tweeted out after the game, said he's going to do everything to play. So
right.
Mike Edwards actually practiced the other day, so that was great to hear. So hopefully he can clear the concussion protocol. So as long
hopefully
as
we actually hear that in the next 3 or 4 hours. By the time this posts, it'll be middle of the afternoon Saturday. So hopefully by then we actually know for sure if he's cleared yet.
Absolutely. Having those 3 safety looks is huge for us. And Shamari Carter obviously had the game of his life, 10 tackles, forced a turnover, should have had a scoop and score. So it was a big day probably for that safety room. So if we can have Mike, Justin Reed, who had arguably one of his best games as a Chief as well, and Shamari, all 3 of those guys, Spags love to do his dime and big safety look. So having those 3 guys on the field will be huge this week because you need to have that athleticism out there to cover guys like Lamar. So Willie Gay, Drew Tranquil, those are my X factors last week, and I'm running it back again this week. You have to be able to keep Lamar in the pocket. Obviously, he's going to make his plays, but just not letting him have those big chunk plays like we said earlier. That's going to be the key to this game. So keep him in the pocket. Don't let him run out of the field. He's going to get his yards because he's an amazing quarterback, but just don't let him have the big chunk plays. And in between the 20s, fellas. I know bend don't break is not what people want to hear, but that's honestly what you have to do against teams like this. If they're not scoring touchdowns, that's what matters. So in the second half of these defenses that Spags has been coaching the last 6 weeks, these are the points we've been giving up: 0, 6, 7, 6, 7. So in the second half, Spags usually gets in his bag and starts coaching defense at a very, very high level. So I'm excited for the matchup. And Charles Omenihu, who could be a breakout player. I think he's due for a big game.
Yeah, I think Omenihu is another place to start there too. Sick last week, maybe not 100%.
Yeah,
obviously he's
sick,
got a lot to play for. He's kind of set the tone defensively since he's been back on that line. I think he's a big one to look at. The two edge rushers with him and Karlaftis being able to set that edge, contain. We've seen this Chiefs defense all year is really good at discipline, tackling. They get in front of their guy. They don't really miss a lot of tackles. They don't get burned real quickly. Lamar obviously probably has the best moves in the game as far as making guys miss. He's got the quickest first step, all that. But these guys are really sound. So I think if they can contain the edge there on those zone reads and kind of force Lamar to take longer to make the read so the defense can collapse on them, or make him make the read even quicker so that we can react to it. I think that's going to be important. But yeah, Charles Omenihu, who's probably going to have a big game. Chris Jones is going to get double, triple teams so many times. So those guys have to be able to win on the edge and control the outside. Because if they can control that outside edge and force things in the middle, Lamar's going to run. But if he has to run through the middle, you've got that guy spying him that I feel pretty good with. I don't want to see Lamar get outside the pocket and quickly beating guys on the edge where he's getting to that second and third level, and we have to wait for the safety to rush back. So if those guys can control the edge there on the line and set the tone right from the get-go, I think that gives us a good fighting chance to at least slow him down some. And my dog is loving the previews today, guys.
We love dogs.
He's awesome back there. But no, right. This team, I don't think a lot of people think of Lamar and Josh Allen as similar, but it's like they are. They're built completely different, and Lamar's obviously faster, and Allen obviously can throw a little deeper. But the game plan is going to be very similar because Knox and Kincaid meet Likely and Andrews. Diggs meet Zay Flower. The offense and defenses or the offense personnel is very similar to what they just saw with the Bills. They may have a healthy Mike Edwards for more than 4 plays or whatever it was.
2 plays.
Yeah, it was crazy because those 3 safety sets are huge. We know what Connor did coming in. He was going to be playing a lot anyway. It actually brought in Bush to play a lot of snaps, which is a big fall off compared. So if you get Mike Edwards in there the whole time, huge. Willie Gay only played 1 or 2 possessions before he was out. So having him, you may actually get the full game plan of what already was fairly decent. I know, the first half was a little rough, but overall the game plan was fairly decent against the Bills. And oh, by the way, as great of run blocking as the Ravens, that's all I hear is the Chiefs can't stop the run. The Ravens are going to run all over. Well, maybe they will a little bit, but they're going to have to pass to win this game. And the Ravens offensive line is not very good at blitz pickup. So I expect a McDuffie. I expect a Justin Reed. I expect someone to get loose on one of those Spags to disguise. And Lamar could get out of it, or he could get blindsided and lose 8 yards in the huge play. So that's something else to keep an eye out on. That I'm a little curious to see. I don't care if they run down the field. I really don't. That's just very what we've seen in the Mahomes era. It worked 2 times.
Yep.
Where a team just relentlessly ran the ball. I think the Colts game a few years back, and then the Titans game where they got blown out, are the only 2 I really think of where they're just committed to the run. But that's not going to how it works in the playoff game. You're going to have to make some throws, and I just think this Spags defense is very. Even though I'm not trying to diminish what Lamar is as a passer, because the media already does that enough because he's a very good passer. But the strength of this Chiefs defense, I think, is going to show that it's going to be a lot more difficult than people are expecting it to be.
Yeah, if you can
hold on to the ball at times too.
Yeah, he does. He holds on. That was an interesting stat somebody brought up this week. They were comparing him with Josh Allen. Josh Allen, one of the guys that holds on to the ball the longest, of course, and makes some of those tough reads. But Lamar's another guy that holds on to because he's trying to make a play with his legs. And I think the longer he holds on to it, the better that goes for our defensive line because it gives them more time to get there. We already know how locked down our secondary is. Man coverage, zone is probably where we're the most susceptible, just because there's always a gap in the zone somewhere. But when it comes to man coverage down the field, if we've got the right lineups going out there, then I feel pretty good there with him holding the ball. I'm really excited to see Spags, like this back and forth dance that we'll probably see. I would expect the first quarter, the Ravens to come out supercharged, run the ball, be physical, get down the field, probably score a touchdown, first drive, second drive, whatever it is. I'll be really excited to see how Spags responds and when he dials up the blitzes. This Ravens team has been susceptible, like you said, when you can get an effective blitz at the right time. The hardest thing to do defensively against this team is read that zone read, like we were talking about. It's one of their most effective plays. They're the team that runs the most runs out of shotgun on the year, but they're also the most effective with it because of that zone read. So when can we dial up the blitzes? Is there something the offensive line's doing to suggest movement in a certain direction? Can you line up two guys on one hip of Lamar's side to kind of make him question? So I'll be curious to see how that goes when he dials it up. I think a guy like Leo Chenal could be key here in some of these second to third down run plays where it's second and 7, they're looking to run again, where he could just blitz right through the middle and catch a guy early, or force Lamar to make a bad read and then Karlaftis gets him on the outside. So that's what I'm watching closely is how is Spags going to dial up pressure, because he's going to do it. He's one of the guys that blitzes the most in the league. Not your traditional blitz guy, but he's just been so good this year at it being timely. So I think that'll be fun. Let the first quarter kind of go how it does. Let the Ravens feel like they're doing what they need to do. Spags is going to respond. He's going to start moving guys around a little bit and make things difficult. And I think if we do that, you're going to see the Ravens start to struggle and have to figure out how to force the ball down the field. And like you said, we're all okay with that. If the Chiefs lose and Lamar throws for 280 and 3 touchdowns, okay, I could see that. Yeah, but we don't want him to run for 11 carries, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gus Edwards has 10 carries, 70 yards, and a touchdown. Doesn't throw for anything, because I think the more you run the ball, the more you wear down the defense. So if we can hold our ground early and find those timely blitzes to dial up pressure at the right moment, I think we're going to cause a lot more frustration to the Ravens offense, more so than I think their defense will cause frustration on our end.
And if you watch that Texans game, the Texans did a great job of doing exactly what Keegan just said. They contained Lamar in the pocket as far as the first half, not letting him get outside and beat him on those own reads. Christian Harris, the linebacker for Houston, is kind of similar to Willie Gay, a bigger athlete, very, very fast for his size. And he put him on the edge a lot to try to contain him, or they spied him more and more so to say. And he did a good job of that. Lamar really wasn't getting outside the pocket. He didn't have that many explosive plays in the first half. And they got that great play on special teams like they have in the punt return. It was a 10-10 game going into half. So if you're looking at the way the Texans called the first half, it was flawless. Keep Lamar in the pocket, not give up any big plays, and keep the game within one possession. And they did the job. The second half, C.J. Stroud missed some throws that were available for them that they could have scored on and put the game on a position to put the pressure on Baltimore. But then they allowed Lamar to get going in the run game and let him get outside that container in the pocket, and then the game kind of got out of hand. So everything you just said, Keegan, is right. If you can contain Lamar in the pocket, now let him get on the edges, easier said than done, but not allow him to have those 15, 20-yard runs and make him beat us throwing him with the ball. Not to say, like Chris said, he can't throw the football, because he can, but I'd rather – there's an interesting stat I saw this week, fellas. When Lamar throws the ball more than 31 times, he's 17-12. Yeah. When he throws the ball under 30 times, I believe his record was 34-2, I believe.
Something crazy.
So when he throws the ball over 31 times, usually you have a better chance of beating the Ravens, because that means their run game isn't as in flow as they usually are. So if we can – and I'm very comfortable, like Chris said, with this defense we have. If we have to add an additional person to that front seven, maybe have a 7-man front or even an 8-man front, I'm comfortable with our DBs that we match up well if we have our safety look to cover likely. If we have to cover Zay Flowers with McDuffie or Snead, either Snead or Trent on Zay, either one of the guys on Odell or Nelson Aguilar or Rashard Bateman, I'm very confident in that matchup. So I'm very comfortable going into this week what we have to do to slow down the run game and give ourselves a chance for sure.
Yeah, and I just hate how much I like Lamar Jackson, man. Like that's where
he's a lot of fun to watch.
That's where I'm
amazing
at.
Player, bro.
Like, if regardless of how this game shows up, I'm rooting for the AFC team to win the Super Bowl. Sorry, Detroit. Like, even if you get there, I would much rather see Lamar win over you guys. But like, it's funny how this narrative has shifted. Like, we're at this Allen versus Mahomes. It was Burrow versus Mahomes. It was Herbert versus Mahomes. You know who the first young quarterback that had that actually has lived up to the hype? It was Lamar in their matchup in 2018 when he first was getting in. Patrick had to make that great throw to Tyreek to keep the game alive. Like, that was the start of the legend, and it kind of kept going. 2020, 2021, like, all those games were really well played, really good games. They played them 4 years in a row. Then Lamar got hurt. They weren't winning the division. We haven't played them for 2 years, and like, people kind of forgot that how good that rivalry was. Like, I'm excited for that to be reborn because I think that's the true AFC rivalry that's going to go on for years, is this Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes. And I'm just it scares me a little bit because he's going to win a second MVP. If he wins a Super Bowl, he'll only be one Super Bowl behind Mahomes with the head-to-head playoff record. So all the talking heads are going to be in their bag this offseason about Lamar if it were to happen. So I'm all for Pat to shut that down. But I had to get out there, man. I love Lamar Jackson. I kind of hope that it's
he's an amazing player. He's going to be a 2-time MVP for a reason. Like, I know, like, it doesn't look the same, so most of the talking heads or the voters don't like looking at Lamar because it doesn't look like a practical quarterback. But great quarterback play is great quarterback play. Same thing they said about Cam Newton winning the Heisman in Auburn, or the same thing when he came into the league. It doesn't look the same, so people don't like it. But effective at football, his winning percentage is just, I think it's right there after Pat as far as guys coming in the league after 2016. So when you look at Lamar, all he does is win. It may not look conventional, but you got to respect greatness. So I'm with Chris. Lamar's a great quarterback, so shout out to him for sure.
Well, let's jump to the offensive side now. So the Chiefs' offense, we've been talking about it since the Bengals game. They've been scoring on a lot of possessions. Not all of them have been touchdowns. There's been issues in the red zones, but they've been scoring, which with this defense is the number one priority. And with Butker being better than Justin Tucker this year, we don't need to talk about too much, but like,
hey, you said it. I didn't say
it. Justin Tucker was 1 for 5 from 50 yarders. I know he made a clutch 53-yarder last week, but like, I don't know. But anyway, this defense is going to be completely different beast than the Bengals, than the Dolphins, than the Bills. CJ, what are you seeing from this defense that could give the Chiefs the continued success or give them a lot more trouble and we see them maybe revert to what they were for most of the season?
Yeah, I talked to a lot of Ravens fans this week, and we were doing a lot of film study together. It's like looking in a mirror. They have a great defense from top to bottom, just like we do. 2 great linebackers, and we were like kind of going down position for position, and we were kind of saying D-line and linebackers almost like a wash. They have Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. Obviously, I think they probably give the edge to them because of the duo, but I think we have better depth when we start getting into obviously Willie Gay, Drew Tranquil, and Leo Chenal. And then we looked at the D-line. They have multiple guys with 10-plus sacks. So do we as well. They have great safety play. I said we have the edge at corner because I think we have the best corner duo in football right now. So it's like looking in the mirror. They do a lot of blitz packages. They put a lot of people on the line of scrimmage and try to confuse the quarterback just like Spags likes to do. They can kind of do 3 safety looks, multiple looks, and they can blitz. And they do have 2 veterans on the edge that they got for great value. Kyle Van Noy, Jadeveon Clowney, they signed in the offseason. Those guys have been great pickups for them. Obviously, Van Noy's been in the big moments. He's played in New England, and Clowney's been in the league over a decade. So obviously he's played in a lot of different systems. So Mike McDonald's done a great job as their defensive coordinator calling their defense. He's very aggressive. He likes to play man. He likes to blitz a lot. But when they're in their zone coverages, that's honestly their most effective coverage is their defense. But I think we've done a great job, like Chris said, to beating zone coverage. I think Rashee Rice is more comfortable playing against zone now than he was in week 2. I think Travis Kelce obviously is healthy now at this point. MVS is making catches that we've asked him to do the entire year. So I think we've just done a great job, like Chris said, consolidating our touches and knowing who we want to touch the ball. We said it all year. It's like a broken record. 10, 4, and 87 need to have the most touches going into every game. And you sprinkle in other guys like MVS, Justin Watson, Noah Gray, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to have a bigger role going into this game. But this defense, when I look at them, they're definitely multiple, just like ours. They can do a lot of different things. They can blitz you. They play single high. They like to bring pressure. And Roquan Smith is the leader of their defense. He's going to get everybody lined up. They don't get too many false start. They don't get too many like penalties where everybody's not lined up. Or only thing that's probably the one knock I would say about their defense, they get a lot of like over and unnecessary roughness penalties, and that's just because they're playing like disciplined football, like hitting the quarterback late, hitting somebody out of bounds, maybe like a head-to-head thing like that. So, but it's because they're an aggressive defense. We've seen those before, so it's a unit that's very similar to ours. If I had to compare it to somebody we played, I would say maybe the Niners of last year. Very multiple, and they can do a lot of different things today. And I think if Marlon Humphrey can't go, I know he didn't practice till Thursday, I believe, Keegan.
Right.
So
yeah, he's still questionable.
He's questionable.
So if he doesn't go, I like Darby, but I think that's a matchup we can take advantage of, whether it be MVS or Rashee Rice on the outside. Because not to say he can't play, obviously, but he's not Marlon Humphrey, one of the better corners in football. So that's an area I think we can take advantage of for sure.
Yeah, I think you got to start here. Obviously, not having Joe Thuney should be significant. I know we said Allegretti was great last week, and I don't doubt.
Don't talk about Chris's guy like that.
But the Ravens are probably going to be dialing up. We know Donovan Smith's been weak at times this year. He hasn't had his best season. So I would expect a lot of pressure on that side, a lot of attention there to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
To shift and dial up. So I'll be curious to see how the offensive line communicates to each other to shift protection here and there. where they chip block on which side, because again, we still have Jawan Taylor on the other side that you still have questions about. He played clean last week. But this Ravens defense, they've got guys at every level. They've got athletes, just kind of like you said with the Chiefs defense. They've got guys that are disciplined. They tackle well. They're quick to the ball. They're speedy. They've got length. Madubike, I always butcher his name. That guy's a freak. He's a fantastic edge rusher. He's so strong. He can push the pocket, get you on the outside. He's a great edge rusher for the quarterback that's trying to get outside the pocket, because he's so quick and long and athletic. I guess the questions I have on this, the two things I think we could do well. One, the Ravens have been susceptible to the run game. There's been plenty of teams this year that have still been able to get the ground going. So if we can do what we've been doing the last few weeks and get Pacheco going, and even if the hole's not there, he runs so dang hard that he might take 2 yards and turn it into 4 or 5. And you keep doing that, you start to break those guys down and wear them down. That's first. But secondly, they do have question marks in their secondary for injuries. They've been injured all season. I mean, if you want to talk about injuries, the Chargers and the Ravens are probably the two teams that have the most injuries of star players every single year. All year this year, Marlon Humphrey's been
and the Bills.
and the Bills. Rocky Sin's currently questionable as well. I would expect both to probably play and give it a go. But if they're dinged up a little bit, maybe that's something we can take advantage of. So I think those are the two areas to look at. I think offensively, schematically, outside of the run game, I think we'll do a lot of quick passes, get guys into space, obviously try and find Kelsey in the soft zone areas. I think they'll look to get Rashid Rice and McCole Hardman on those quick bubble screens and trying to work down the field and do small chunk plays. This is, like I said, this is not the typical Chiefs team we've been used to of big plays. It's now they're starting to do these long drives. And I think those long drives have actually panned out well, because those long drives mean we're getting the run game going, getting Pacheco going, and sustaining long drives. So I think that's where we have our opportunities. Get the running lanes open, let Pacheco do his thing, try and get the ball out quickly, make those guys tackle you in open space, because we know Rashid Rice, outside of like Brandon Ayuk, Rashid Rice is one of the best guys this year in open space, and of course Tyreek Hill. But I would lean on our offensive weapons more so than the Ravens. I think the Ravens have great pieces offensively, but I think our defense, again, can do more to frustrate them and force them to go to those receivers and tight ends. Whereas the Chiefs offensively, I think we can kind of control the pace of the game if we do what we've been doing the last 4 or 5 weeks and lean on that run game, make the correct calls, not force anything down the field if it's not open, and just kind of make these methodical drives. And then you get into that second half, kick a few field goals, let Harrison Butker do what he does best, and let Spags dial up his pressure. And, I don't really feel too nervous about this game. I know 8 weeks ago, I would have said there's not many teams in the playoffs I feel confident that we could go up against offensively and do enough. But the way this offense has been dialed in, outside of the unnecessary cute plays we've had, the McCole Hardman play last week, if we just play focused football and dial up the game plan that's been working, I don't see how we will struggle that much unless the offensive line crumbles. I mean, that's pretty much true of any Chiefs game in the last 5 years, is if the offensive line can't hold up and Mahomes has to run and go crazy, he's certainly capable of making big plays, but we also know that when he has to do that consistently, we're not playing our best football. But I don't feel too worried.
Yeah, there's a lot to affect. Oh, sorry, go CJ.
Funny stat that I saw on Twitter yesterday, and it was very interesting. Only 5 players in NFL history have 5 straight playoff games of 75-plus scrimmage yards. Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, Terrell Davis, Isaiah Pacheco, who was the last one? And Frank Gore. That's a very, very good company to be in. Four Hall of Famers, 1 future one with Frank Gore. Isaiah Pacheco could make it 6. He could be at the top of that list.
That is a good list. And to go off what Keegan was just talking about, first off, I am nervous because I think if you made me choose an outright winner with my life on the line, I'd choose the Ravens. Like that's just where I'm at, because they just have a loaded roster with the MVP. So that's where I'm at with this team. The Nick Allegretti stuff, I'm not worried about anything blown. Like, I don't think it's going to be one of those things to where he's not going to know what to do. The biggest there is that he's not Joe Tooney, so the blocks may not be as crisp at times. He may get beat a few more times, but he's going to know his assignment. He's going to know what he's doing, and so that in its own, like, I'm not worried about it. Even though you're going from all pro to 6 linemen, like,
Who's probably a starter on 20
a lot
other
of teams.
in the league.
Yeah, he's a starter on
for
a
sure.
lot of other teams at somewhere in the interior. He can play all three spots. So, like, I'm not as worried there. The thing I'm interested the most in is to see how Andy schemes up Travis Kelce, because I think we all talk about there's Derwin James and this Kelce shutdown
Kelce
players.
stoppers.
You know who actually is
Kyle
built?
Hamilton.
Kyle Hamilton is built like a Kelce. Now, we've never seen him match up. This will be their first time, so we'll see how that goes. But I am doing everything in my power, if I'm Andy, to scheme Kelce not to be covered by Kyle Hamilton. You get anyone else. I don't care if it's Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen. I don't care who else is on him. I'm taking that matchup over the Kyle Hamilton matchup because that's the one guy that I think could actually slow down Travis Kelce.
He's not your typical safety build either. I mean,
No,
he's big.
no. Like he's smart and his instincts are off the charts. Like, I haven't watched a ton of Ravens, but whenever you do watch the Ravens, he just flashes on your screen, man. Dude knows where the ball is going to be. So that's what I'm. We all know they motion Travis a lot. I'm trying to do everything I can to make sure you get Kyle Hamilton off of Kelce in the passing game, because if you take Kelce away, this team that's already limited becomes that much more. And, oh, by the way, Pacheco didn't practice much this week, so who knows how much usage he's going to get. And all of a sudden you're down to a rookie receiver, as you know, with maybe Marlon Humphrey. But I just don't like the Chiefs' odds if they take Kelce out of this game. So that's the number one matchup I'm looking at. He's going to have, his career over 16 playoff games is the best tight end career ever. Like, it's like 1,400 yards and 18 touchdowns. And it's like, that's used to be a normal season over 16 games. And he's doing this in the playoffs. So I think Trav will show out. I'm just trying to make sure that we get the most out of it and don't let Kyle Hamilton, a name that everyone needs to know, because if you don't know him now, he's going to be a problem for a lot of years to come. Could very well take him out of the game. He's just an animal.
My guess would be that at the line, you'll see a lot of Patrick Queen lined up near Kelce because of his, athleticism. I think he's going to be one of the guys they'll use to kind of hit him at the line first. I don't want to get too deep into what kind of coverage the Ravens are going to play, because they're capable of playing all sorts. We know they're a very heavy zone team, but kind of like what we talked about with the linebacker being the spy on the QB, I think you'll see a lot of Patrick Queen will probably get the initial assignment up to a certain point, but Kyle Hamilton is the spy, the robber of sorts on Kelce at all times, where he's basically just shadowing him at all sides of the field. So maybe that's either a 3 safety look with Hamilton, strictly playing that Kelce spot, or it's, back to their zone. But wherever Kelce is on the field, you definitely feel like Kyle Hamilton is shadowing that way, which could, if these receivers can, do their jobs and get open, that might actually, as much as that could limit Kelce, maybe that gets an MVS open over the top, or a Justin Watson post route, something, because Kyle Hamilton's focused on his attention on Kelce, that might leave another soft spot in that defense. So maybe, as much as that could be a negative thing on Kelce, which it very well could be, if the receivers can show up and Andy's dialed in and they're seeing that, maybe one of these other guys can get open to where it forces the Ravens to play differently to then get Kelce more involved, or at least maybe get Kelce the ball quicker and earlier and let him use his physicality to break a few tackles and get, maybe he gets 7 catches, but they're 7 to 8, 10 yards at a time versus the 15 to 20.
No, when I'm looking at this defense, it reminds me a lot of what Lou Anarumo does with Cincinnati. Very multiple. They can put a lot of different guys at different spots. So I think this is a matchup where you kind of want to, like you said, put Kelce in a lot of motions to dictate if it's zone or man. And then I'll say, if they're going to put Kyle Hamilton on Trav for a whole game, Kyle Hamilton's going to make his play, Trav's going to make his. But I don't think Mike McDonald's not that cerebral of a coach, especially the D coordinator, to give you the same look for 4 quarters. So I expect Kyle to be on him some, but I don't think, because just like Lou Anarumo, Jesse Bates was an all-pro safety. He didn't keep him on the whole game. Yeah. And just like Jordan Poyer, even Micah Hyde, 2 of the best safety tandems in the league, they didn't stay on Travis Kelce. So if you give Pat or give Andy the same look, they're going to figure out a way to dice you up. Especially like Keegan said, if you play more zone, if you're going to dictate coverage towards Trav, just like we saw in the Dolphins game, if you have 5 or 6 eyes looking at Kelce, Rashid Rice is running across the field wide open for a big play, and he scored on it. So, or even MVS or Watson. So I expect him to switch it up. But Kyle Hamilton's a great player, but very comparable to guys like Derwin James, tall, long, can do a lot of different things. He can tackle in the open field. Very smart player, like Chris said. So it's going to be a good matchup. But I think they know what to do if they're going to dictate coverage with Kyle Hamilton. You can kind of use him as a chess piece to know.
Breaking news! Breaking news! As of 5 minutes ago, Kadarius Toney out.
I think we kind of expected that.
I know. Just want to put that out there. That we probably feel good about it. I got the question earlier this week with McCole Hardman. You think they would turn back? Nope. Tony's out.
Oh, y'all thought that? Oh, never.
No, McCole is getting a
even though he did fully practice this week, but it says personal reasons. So that's not good on his side. Yeah.
Personal reasons, meaning he can't take the heat if he screws up. Personal.
So very well, maybe the last time we ever see Kadarius Toney in a Chiefs uniform was probably a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So, but yeah, McCole's definitely getting the jet sweep early on in this game.
Oh,
like I don't know if he's gonna get any goal line carries, but he's getting an early touch. Book it
to get him going. Yeah, to get him going.
It.
And my thing is, like, he I know Kelsey tried to take the heat for him on his week on New Heights podcast and say, like, oh, I missed the block. I get, and you probably could have blocked Jordan Poyer better to where he doesn't knock the ball out. But McCole would tell anyone I have to hold on to the football because if I do, we score. Either I score or we score the next play. Yeah, like it was a great play call. It worked. He got to the goal line. You just have to finish the play by squeezing the football or Kelsey finishing your block. And maybe he does roll in the end zone. So two little things, finishing a block and holding on to the football. But the play call, the design was amazing. It worked. So I know people say it's cute, but it was a good play call because McCole has scored 4 times in a football game off that play. So it's not bad. He's the fastest dude on the football field. He can score.
It's the perfect example of the fans love it when it works, but if something goes wrong, you're an idiot for calling it kind of thing.
If he didn't score, I wasn't upset because I'm like, it was a good play call. He just didn't get in the end zone. We could have ran it again next play and it won. So.
Just too bad that ball just didn't fumble sideways.
Right.
Yeah, just either way. So just squeeze it, McCole. Squeeze it next time, bro. You good. You still that guy, bro.
All right, let's knock out these last few things. I want everyone pick an X factor. It can be on either side of the ball, just real brief, and then we're going to get into a couple parlays, and then we'll do game predictions. That's what we got left. CJ, who is your X factor on this game?
My defensive X factor, it's been the same thing as last week. Whichever one is on the field, Drew Tranquil or Willie Gay, because we know like those guys on the field, you have to be able to keep Lamar in the pocket. If he extends the play, I'm fine with that. Just not let him extend the play and then use his legs too much. So like we said, incompletions and throwaways are wins against quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson. Offensive X factor will be either whichever one, because these guys only get 2 targets a game, maybe 3. MVS or Justin Watson. Whoever gets that deep shot that Keegan mentioned earlier, whoever gets that, they have to make that play. We only take about what we took. We had 20-plus yard chunk plays last week with the Bills, but some of those were runs. As far as deep shots, I think MVS is the only one that had the over 15-yard catches. Well, no, Rasheed had one, but it was a short pass. I think deep shots were both MVS. So if we hit one of those, whoever we throw it to, that's my offensive X factor, MVS or Justin Watson, whoever gets that target.
Defensively, I want to say Karlaftis. I think one because it's a big game for him as a young edge rusher to go up against a dynamic, zone rushing team. So I think he could be a big factor, either causing Lamar to slow down just enough that he can't cut a big one, or making a big time perfect read on the zone and stopping big plays. So I think he could have a potentially huge game. Leo Chenal's the other one that, again, I think he's going to get somewhere in there to dial up a nice blitz. But offensively, I'm going to go back to the guy that's going to get his 1 to 3 targets. It's all going to be in the first half, but it could come later too, and that's Noah Gray. I think as much attention as they get on Kelsey, Noah Gray's going to make one play, at least one play a game. It's going to be important. It's going to come either on a 2nd and 12 that we got stopped on first down for a loss of yards, or it's going to be a big 3rd down play. Noah Gray would be the other guy that I think he's more reliable than what some of these other guys have been. So I think he offensively is the guy. And then maybe Clyde. Maybe Clyde does what he's done and he gets 1 or 2 plays where he gets a big first down in a key moment.
And you guys said 8 players, so I got to make sure that I don't.
Chris is like,
my defensive guy, actually, I didn't have to say it. It was always going to be Justin Reed. Like, he's like the afterthought on this defense, even though he's the highest or second highest paid behind Chris on the defense. But like, he's going to be asked to blitz. He's going to be asked to be on Andrews or likely times. Like, he's going to be have to come up and make plays in the run game. Like, he's going to be in a lot of plays, and if he can make the plays, that's great. If he doesn't, it may be a long day. So he's my defensive guy. I wanted to say Clyde on offense too, just because it's a Pacheco. But here's another one. Juwan Taylor, because the Houston Texans were called for 6 pre-snap penalties, their offensive line. at the
They
bank.
were early too.
Yeah, like at the bank, like that crowd was going crazy, and I know so was Buffalo. And Juwan Taylor passed that test. He did great. There were no issues. No one was talking about him. But not only is
See
he
if he can
going
do it
against
again.
a good pass rush, they got a lot of guys come at him. He's also got another loud environment. So him playing another game like he did in Buffalo will go a long way. If he regresses to how we saw middle of the season, that's going to be a big issue. So he's probably my guy behind Clyde. I would pick on the offensive side. Now I'm going to let this segment over to you two guys because I can't do it. What bets we liking this week? How are we making money?
All right, Keegan. So I got some ATDs and I got like some parlays. Which one you want to do first?
Let's do the ATDs.
ATDs, great value. I think I got Clyde Edwards-Helaire plus 500 ATD. I love him a lot, especially we know Pop is going to get most of the touches, but you never know. A little scoop pass to Clyde, a screen swing, you never know. Another ATD I like is it's a little spicy, but we just saw him go over the top that Keegan just mentioned. Noah Gray. Noah Gray is another one. If we go 12 tight end sets in the red zone, we just went 13 personnel. We threw a screen to Kelsey. Maybe Noah Gray gets a little fake block chip and slip out. So those are two of my favorite ATD outside of the obvious ones like Kelsey, Rashid, Pacheco. Those are the two ones with great value that I would definitely sprinkle a little money on for sure. Noah Gray and Clyde Edwards-Helaire for sure.
I'm always down for Noah Gray anytime.
Me too, buddy. He's clutch. He's clutch.
I wouldn't be shocked though if we did try and get McCole Hardman again in the red zone. But again, I don't feel as good about the anytime TDs this week because again, I think it's going to be a lot of field goals. So outside of your Kelsey, Lamar, probably a Gus Edwards. Edwards. I don't mind parlaying Gus Edwards, Isaiah Pacheco, and just going running back. But outside that, I'm not really looking too much into the TD ones this week. Other than maybe a sprinkle on a defensive touchdown.
Yeah, never know. Those are good values. Parlay wise touchdowns, I definitely love. My favorite one that I use a lot this week is Lamar, Pacheco, and Kelsey. Then I did a variation. I did Lamar, Pacheco, and Rashid. I think those are very good ones for sure. I did some alternate ones this morning. I did Justice Hill with Pacheco, then I did Gus Edwards with Pacheco. Whoever, any three of those guys for the Ravens can score a touchdown. It's just who they decide to give the football to. So any of those three of that combination are great values if you want to put like two legs together for any. They're all like plus 300, plus 4 if you put them all together. Most of mine I put on ESPN Bet or I put them on Caesar Sportsbook. Either one you have, but all those guys are good value for sure. This is going to be a running team for sure.
I do have one bigger parlay. I've got a 7-pick parlay that I have placed. Nice. Wasn't feeling super confident, but I went lower totals on a lot of these. Went Pacheco alternate rushing yards 40. I still think he's going to be fine. He runs hard. He's prone to break off 2 or 3 10 yards, so he could get most of that in 3 or 4 carries. Lamar 50 plus rushing yards. I still went a little lower just in case their defense does contain him. Yet still prone for a big time run. Rashid Rice, I didn't like the receiver props, and I think that's the national perspective going that both defenses are so good. But I think we're good at scheming receivers open. So Rashid Rice plus 40 plus receiving yards, Travis Kelsey 40 plus receiving yards. Again, even if he gets slowed down, he's still going to get 7 or 8 opportunities in the middle of the field for 8-10 yards at a time. Lamar Jackson under 210 passing yards, which kind of goes against my philosophy of how we win this game because we want him to throw. But I think if he does throw, we're containing him and not giving up chunk plays. So still under 210 there. Chiefs have basically not given up 225 plus to passers for most of the entire season. So I like that one. Mahomes, his passing totals have fluctuated. So I'm just going with 200 plus. I still think he gets to 200. This team throws too much not to get there. And then Harrison Butker over 1.5 field goals. He's been nails this postseason, and like I said earlier, I think this is a multiple field goal game. If I could find it, I would take 3 field goals and whatever value that is and put it. So I do that altogether. It's plus 750. That's my official parlay as of now. I'm sure I would dabble with some more.
I got 2 big ones. One of them's Chiefs related. One of them's like both games on Sunday. I think Keegan gonna like this first one. The second one's for Chris. The first one is Justin Tucker over 1.5 field goals. And then Harrison Butker over 6.5 kicking points. So Tucker makes 2 field goals, Butker makes 2 field goals and an extra point. I put those 2 together. I think it was plus 300. So I put 50 down, get you 150 back.
Oh,
and
easy.
Then my last one, I love this one. Chris gonna like this. It's both games. Lions plus 7.5 with a George Kittle anytime. Not George Kittle, no, Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown.
Oh yeah.
That's the late game. I think that's pretty much safe money. The second one, I think Keegan go like the second half. Chiefs money line, Pacheco anytime touchdown, Lamar anytime touchdown, and Lamar rush for 40 yards. I got that at plus 1,000. I think those are pretty safe. Like if either team wants to win, they both have to run. Lamar's going to get his, like Keegan said. I think the Chiefs pull out the win. I definitely don't see the Lions getting blown out. CMC's a lock every week. I got that at plus 1,000, and I use one of my $50 free bets on it. So that's my.
Nice.
If that cashes out, I get like 1,500. That's my big one for the week. That's my big one. So I'm excited
nice.
about it.
It's gonna hit. It's gonna miss because Lamar has 39 rushing yards. Wouldn't that be?
Oh man,
I'm gonna be so hyped.
If that was the one that didn't hit, that would be hilarious.
Well, Mahomes got me last week because his 2 kneel downs put him back under the prop total. I had him at plus 20, and he finished at 19.
Oof, man. Yeah, because he does those elongated kneels, man. He's like, yeah, he goes like 3 yards back. But
how about score? What do you guys got for score predictions?
I kind of bounced back this week. I've been around the same area. I've said 24-21, 23-20 on some show. I'm like you, Keegan. I think it's a close game. 2 great defenses. I don't know where people are getting these 30s from, Chris. I think that's disrespectful to both these defensive coordinators, especially with the Chiefs. Second half, we've given up 0, 6, and 7 points the last month of football, 2 months of football. So I don't see either team touching over 30, honestly. I think it's under 30 for both teams. So any combination of that, that's what I agree with.
Yeah, I've been going 23-20 just because I'm like Keegan with the field goal kick. Like if the Chiefs can move the ball between the 20s, even on a good defense, they may have to kick a few more field goals. So that's 5 scores, 3 field goals, 2 touchdowns. Like that's kind of how I see this Chiefs offense moving the ball, and similar to the Ravens. So
yeah, only thing I'm worried about in the field goal department is the fact that it's probably going to be rainy. Not saying that is anything crazy, but if it's raining really hard, that's obviously going to make it tough to kick. But I still have the under for sure. So I'm sitting at 20-17. I don't think this Ravens team gets more than 17. I think they get 10 in the first half, and they get a late touchdown late in the game to keep it close. But by then, the Chiefs have already locked it up.
No, I agree. I think it's like both teams maybe finish with 10 each halves. So that's 20. And I think that last field goal, like Chris said earlier, somebody's going to get the game winner, either Bucker for the walk-off or Tucker for the walk-off. 2 best kickers in football, even though Bucker's been better. No bias. But the Ravens fans have told me, Keegan, they said it should rain, but it's kind of like their weather's like ours. It'll say it's going to rain, and it may not be that bad. Or if it does rain, it's not going to be like – they say it's like half an inch, so it's not going to be nothing heavy. So hopefully it doesn't affect the field or anything. Obviously, they cover it like any NFL team does. But they told me the weather shouldn't play a huge factor going into Sunday, so we'll see. Nice. It's an early game, too, so we don't got to worry about no late cold or anything. So.
All right. Well, that'd be interesting to see. I'm excited, man. Another championship game. As we wrap up here, I'm Chris for Tenpenny. You can follow me at Tenpenny88. CJ, where can the good people find you?
Find me at CGZ81, baby.
And then Keegan, to tell them we're out and take us home.
Yep, at Keeganator_11 for myself. Obviously, you got at Aftermath_KC. And then, of course, everything we're doing here at KC Sports Authority, at KCSA Pod, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Got a lot of reels going up this week for some of you Jayhawk fans and some Chiefs fans. Got a lot of fun stuff. Got a lot of content we're going to break down here soon. Win or lose, there will still be Chiefs content coming because even after this weekend, if it's a loss, we still got the NFL draft to start looking forward to, off-season conversation. There's a ton of stuff, so you don't want to miss any of it. So hit that subscribe button right there on the bottom of the screen. And stay tuned for this weekend. Go Chiefs. It's going to be a fun one, fellas. And hopefully this time next week or whenever their next episode is, we're talking back-to-back Super Bowl appearances.
I want another hoodie.
Not first, but second time in the Mahomes era. Maybe we
want another hoodie, Chris. I'm not playing.
You want another hoodie? Let's do it.
I sent Chris a championship shirt last year, so keeping the tradition alive. I went to Rally House and I got him a shirt.
Yep. Nice. Yeah, it was nice. And charged me full price. No, I'm just
no fair discount.
Oh man. So, but no, it'll be fun to see. Hopefully we're talking about a dub. Thank you all for listening, and as always, we will talk to you next time.
Go Chiefs.